How can you find and maintain your voice in such an environment?
So it hasn't been easy. It was absolutely awful, actually, after Salman Rushdie was attacked, when it really did get under my skin, and I was terrified. And I can say, looking back, just as you were describing when Theo van Gogh was being shot, um, as the event itself was unfolding, as he fired the first shot, and he was on his bicycle, and the killer followed him. Theo was saying, "Can we talk about this?"
Mm.
And there was a lot of commentary right after Theo was killed in Holland, in the Netherlands, where that's exactly how the Dutch approach life and conflict. Can we talk about it? Why can't we talk about it? Do we really have to shoot one another? And I think, again, it's the same, or it has become increasingly the same in America, where sometimes we're faced with these implacable, relentless threats, people who want to take your life or take your country. And we sit back and we say, can't we talk about it? And so I think the way to cope with it, and having done this for a number of years, is, number one, to avoid what I did, which was I lived in denial and thought it doesn't affect me, when in fact it affected me very, very much. And so you have to try and remain mentally sane. For me, what has worked now is faith. I think I've announced not so long ago that I've become a Christian, and I find a great deal of comfort and safety in that. So I'm not constantly thinking about the threat, and I don't feel sort of guilt, the whole burden of guilt that I felt towards Theo's death. I feel much better about those sorts of things. But it's a huge toll on your mental health, if I can put it that way. And then what I also find empowering is not to give in or to give up, and to just continue to speak out and speak up as long as the threat is there. There's something even calming about that they can't frighten you into silence, and that as long as I'm alive and I'm speaking about it, I hope I'm giving others reason and courage to do exactly the same.
By way of closing, what allowed you to find your voice in those first years that you started speaking out? You mentioned you grew up in a culture of conformity where speaking out wasn't allowed, and there was violence or even the threat of violence when you did so. And you didn't start becoming an outspoken critic until, if I'm understanding the chronology right, until after Salman Rushdie's fatwa, right? And
I didn't become an outspoken critic until 2001, 9/11, 2001. That's the event that propelled me into speaking out.
So over a decade later. So you grow up in this culture of conformity, especially so for women.
Mm-hmm.
How does one find their voice growing up in that sort of environment? I mean, what was the moment where you decided I needed to speak up?